Hey everybody, happy Wednesday. This is Sports Fanatic News. I'm Joseph Boric. This is the last video on the day of the Giants deciding to bench Eli Manning for Geno Smith and not Davis Webb. Huh? Yeah, exactly. That's most people's reaction. Why would you not put in your rookie? Apparently, part of it has to do with they didn't have him ready enough. He hasn't been active for any of the games so far this year. He hasn't got enough snaps in practice. And part of that is the reason. But reading many articles, looking at many things, he's expected to start as early as next week. But then there's the other side of it as there's not enough time to really show if he should be the guy you go for in the future, or if you draft Sam Darnold or Josh Rosen or another quarterback from this draft. They haven't really gave him enough time to show that, unless if he comes out and just balls after he comes in for Geno. Geno's QBR has a better QBR than Eli Manning's this season, but not overall. But Eli's stats have been trending downward since of the past 3 years. Looking at the numbers right here, his TD to interception ratio is 19th in the league. His completion percentage is 22nd. His QBR is 25th, and his yards per attempt is 33rd. So it's not like he's been doing anything great lately, but they did go 11-5 last year. A lot of that had to do with their defense. Maybe Eli is at the point of his career where he has to have all the perfect things around him to do well. But the Giants also were thrashed by injuries this year, have a bad offensive line, inconsistent running game, so he doesn't have a lot of help. And the flip side of that goes to how well can you evaluate Davis Webb, too, your rookie, without a very great team around him either. Their defense all of a sudden just wasn't that great this year, which hasn't had that much changes. It's just flipped from one year to another not being that great. So they have many problems, but that's a whole different story. Webb has all the essentials that everybody would want, that people fall in love with. He has the size, the arm strength, the touch on the deep passes, and he's also a very hard worker and dedicated in the film room. Geno Smith obviously failed with the other New York team that played in that stadium, the Jets, who also didn't have a great team around them and suffered bad coaching as the Giants do under Rex Ryan, who never adjusted to coach for the times and was always a better coach on a staff rather than the head coach. Ben McAdoo is not a good head coach. Could he be a good coach on the staff? Who knows, on a staff, but he's definitely not a good head man. He offered Eli the opportunity to start in these games and basically come out after the first half, and Eli's response was kind of, well, aren't we supposed to be winning games? Like, why would I do that? Basically, if you want to put these guys in, just put them in now. Don't be worrying about my streak, because the streak will be tarnished anyway if I'm not in the entire game, and people will look at it even worse if we're winning and then I get taken out and then rookie comes in basically and doesn't do well, and it wouldn't be on them. It would kind of be on the poor coaching. The only thing people question with Smith was his accuracy and the fact that he played in the air raid offense at Cal. He wasn't really asked to read defenses and go through all the progressions, but so that's why they brought him along slowly. He had a great last season with Cal. He had 4,295 yards, 37 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. He was a transfer from Texas Tech, who also had a similar offense that doesn't compare well to the NFL, so these guys sometimes take a little bit longer to get going, as did Goff up in LA. He's viewed as an excellent teammate with the intangibles necessary to have success and a good leader. Eli Manning has taken this in stride. He had a very emotional press conference about losing his job, but then the very next day, he was right there, per reports, with Davis Webb and Geno Smith, teaching them everything they need to know to be successful and to go forward. Eli Manning, of course, will probably have interest in in other teams to go to places that have a more substantiated team, that all they really are missing is a quarterback. Like Denver would come to mind if they want to have a veteran before bringing in young guys again, who now have Trevor Siemian back in the starting role after Paxton Lynch got injured again, who actually looked decent before his injury. So that's kind of upsetting for them. But overall, Davis Webb seems that he will be starting at some point, and that could be good for them to see what the guy out of Cal can do, what Webb can do, how he can spread the ball down the field, because that is something Cal's known to do good with deep passes, and that's something he's known to be good at. So it'll be interesting to see how Geno does this week, and if he plays himself into another start, or if he doesn't do that great, that Davis Webb will then get into the game, and everybody will get to see how a young guy does for the Giants. Obviously, due to the pictures and stuff behind me, I'm not a Giants fan by any stretch, but I am somebody that enjoys having competitiveness in the division and in football, and a lot of that goes hand in hand with having the Giants be a decent football team, because typically you look at New York, Philadelphia, Boston, or New England will be their team, and like California and other cities to be the teams that you kind of expect to have a decent team. And I'm just a person that likes having competitiveness, so if this guy turns out to be good and Kirk Cousins stays in the Redskins, now the division basically has a bunch of solid building block quarterbacks that will just continue to get better. Or if the Giants chose to draft somebody, it'll be the same premise. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out, how the whole Dak Prescott situation plays out in Dallas, because without Zeke, he's not looking too good, but granted, he hasn't had to play without Zeke before, so maybe it set him up for failure, but you still got to step up as a leader and provide. So a lot of that is also on him, not discounting the way he's playing at all. It'll be interesting to see how moving forward this division goes, and it'll obviously be more competitive next season with Zeke back in line for Dallas, no matter who they start at quarterback, and which will probably be Dak, because Dak does fine with him in there, and they have to find a way to give Dak Prescott confidence and see if he can be something without Zeke. Darren McFadden retired, etc. But it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. Kirk Cousins is a very solid quarterback in Washington. Obviously, Wentz is the best in the division. Dak's not doing good lately, but and be a turnaround. And this division has the potential to have four really solid, still fairly young in their career quarterbacks for basically everyone. Even Cousins hasn't been in the league too long. He's been in the league the most, but still isn't who you would consider a consistent veteran. So it'll be interesting to see how this division goes. I think the Giants will end up starting Davis Webb for the end of the season. That'll be interesting to see how he does against us, because we do have another game with the Giants. So we'll see how that goes. And have a great day, everyone. This is the last video of the day. This is Sports Fanatic News. I'm Joe Boric. Peace out.